Hi everybody, welcome back to Big Time Adulting. You're gonna pee your pants a little bit when we talk about who we have as our guest today.
Which
Every
is more normal, by the way, at this age, at least my age.
regular occurrence, just if you jumped up and down a little bit. Tiffany Amber Thiessen, we love you. Our generation loves you. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, I'm so excited. Well, as you know, I'm a huge fan of yours, so I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, I think I told you that I shit my pants when you shared one of my reels one time, and you were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Please don't shit your pants."
Please don't. No one needs to shit their pants. We have a lot of time later on that that'll be happening, right? So let's
Um,
let's try to hold it together at least a little bit longer.
I'm gonna hope that doesn't happen ever, actually. But
I don't know.
I was truly like so pumped because I just feel like I've grown up watching you, and I totally want to ask you some questions about your life in that phase. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to know. Like you starred in these very popular TV shows that put you into the spotlight as like an object of desire of every teen boy. You were like everyone's crush, women and men alike. I feel like we all loved you. Like what was that like as a teenager?
I think it's complicated. I'll start there. I think at the beginning it was more like I didn't understand it. And then it became more of like, okay, it's weird. And then it became like, oh, this is kind of cool because I'm getting to do cool things because of this popularity, right? And then it became a little bit of like, it's not really me that they're kind of, you know, wanting or thinking they love. It's not it's this character. It really is. I mean, she was kind of designed to be, I guess, whoever created her, right? There was a few people that probably created her into what they thought was like the perfect girl, right?
Yeah,
She was a
America's
cheerleader.
sweetheart.
Yeah, of course, she was a cheerleader. She was sweet. She came from a big family, like, all those things that I personally was not, right? Um so then it became more of like, okay, I can handle this because it's really like this character that people are kind of in love with, not so much me personally, because they didn't know who I was personally.
Mm.
So
And was that like a security blanket to be able to sort of have this alter ego in that way? Or was that
maybe, I
just
mean, I think,
more
yeah, I think most actors could say playing a role definitely is like having another side, an alter ego. Sure, for sure.
mm,
It didn't make it any easier. I mean, people would still say shit. They would still talk good and bad, and I remember, we didn't have social media back then, so it
thank
wasn't,
God.
thank God, because it probably would have been 10 times harder, and I know it's 10 times harder because I have a teenager who of course wants social media, and I'm keeping it away from her as long as I can. But we had websites, like it was like magazines, and it was like websites that people would like write in and say things. So I feel like it was definitely easier to like not pay attention to it probably than it would be now. um but I was a curious teen, so every now and then I would go on it, but then I stopped going on it because I was like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Like, I needed to stay focused on being a good person, doing my job, being on time, making sure I got enough sleep, getting through high school. And those were the things that I tried to focus on, not all the other crap.
Were you being homeschooled at that point?
I was. So I didn't get to finish my regular high school. I think I did one or half a year of high school. And then I was tutored the rest of high school. And so there's, a part of that also that was very different. My classmates were my coworkers. Most of us were the same age. A couple of us were a couple years, like Elizabeth was a couple years older. Mario, myself, and Mark Paul all were the same age. And Lark as well. And then Dustin was a couple years younger. So, but we generally were all around the same age. So we were all doing school together as well as working together. And it was very, we didn't have prom, we didn't get to go to dances, we didn't have all the the stuff that normal kids do. But at the same time, we got to do things that a lot of other kids didn't get to do. I got to travel all through Europe. I got to go through, all this, pretty much every state in this, country I got to visit. So, there's positives and negatives to it all.
Yeah, you'd do it all over again?
At the age I am now, no, I'd be too fucking tired. But, but would I do it all over again? Yeah. I mean, if I had to have it exactly like that, yeah. I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, you have to look back and say, a lot of the things that I'm interested in or have passions about, like food, are all because of me getting to travel and go to Europe and do all those things that there's no way my family would have been able to do for me. We didn't have the money. So yeah, I would.
What was your upbringing like? Do you have siblings? And
Yes, two brothers. My parents grew up in Long Beach, California. Went to public school until I was tutored. Went to junior high with Snoop Dogg.
whoa,
His name was Calvin back
was
then.
he
It was not
sipping
Snoop Dogg.
on gin and juice
Well,
then?
probably, but not hopefully in the hallways of school.
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. That's a
Definitely
question for
smoking a
him.
bone dog.
Probably. But very modest. My dad worked two jobs to allow my mom to be, home a lot more with us. And so, yeah, I mean, my parents still live in the same house I grew up in. Like it's sweet. They're still,
That's
still,
awesome.
still down there.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now I'm really kind of reeling over the fact that you went to high school with or whatever, middle
Junior
school
high,
with
junior
junior
high. We called
high.
it junior high. Now people call it middle school. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I called it
Yeah.
junior high too. But
Yeah.
with Snoop, I
Yeah.
mean,
I did. I did.
oh my god, that's amazing. My mind is
Yeah.
exploding right now. So, as a person, like, growing up in the public eye, did you feel like you had to overcompensate, like, and be nice to everybody and be well-liked all the time? Was that a lot of pressure? Like, I feel like it's hard when people are watching you all the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. I don't think it was about in the sense of like feeling like I needed to be nice. I mean, I feel like I'm a nice person. I feel like that sort of comes naturally. My mom used to always say it's so much harder to be mean than it is to be nice. So just be nice. Um, but I think it was more about being watched, I would say. And as a girl, I mean, I don't want to say it's harder for a girl than it is for a boy because I mean, we're all different, but I do believe sometimes girls get watched a little harder, a little harsher, a little deeper than boys sometimes. And I have a daughter and a son, so I kind of see both. Um, but I would say being watched was definitely probably the hardest part, and also doing it during those years where you're changing so much, middle school, high school, puberty, all that kind of stuff was happening all at that time. And to do it in front of camera is, it's not the greatest. Not the
Takes
greatest.
takes a lot of balls at that age.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. A lot of strength, a lot of really self-reflecting constantly. And I again say that, part of who I am and kind of really understanding who I am as a person has a lot to do with all of that way back then. Yeah.
Yeah, and you never became like a disaster. You kept it together.
At least to the public eye. No. No, yeah, I came from good stock. Like my parents are, still married to this day and were huge, huge role models for me. And my grandmother as well was a big influence on my life as well. And she used to always say, all this can be taken away. Every single part of it. It doesn't mean it's going to last. So be grateful, take it seriously, be respectful, and if you like it, keep doing it, and just but it all can go away.
Yeah,
It's
like
true,
anything.
like
Yeah.
anything, like anything. Yeah.
How did, like, that experience shape you kind of as a person today and especially, like, as a mom? Um, kind of knowing what you know after being probably feeling scrutinized by everybody all of the
Yeah.
time. Now, are you more sensitive as a mother raising, tweens, teens,
Mhm.
stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like
I think, yeah, I'm sure. subconsciously, I'm definitely more sensitive to it. I think it's made me realize how important it is to uh, showcase myself in a way that's positive for both my kids. And that's just mental health, physical health, all those things. And I'm going to be 50 soon, and I think about that. Like, I want my kids to see that I take care of myself in both ways. And so lead by example, right? We always talk about lead by example, and it's true. It goes across the board with everything. My husband and I talk about that all the time, with every little nook and cranny, whether it's what you eat or what you do, and they're watching. They're totally watching, and they're watching the mistakes as well. Like I want to showcase also the importance of mistakes. Like people make mistakes, but vocalizing those mistakes too and saying, you know what, I didn't do this correctly. I could have done this better. And I want you to learn from that.
Mm, totally. And like, yes, admitting to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
By the
Mm-hmm.
way, you look fucking great.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I see that you ice plunge all the
I
time.
do. It's
Talk
been
about
kind
that.
of my new sort of passion. It's been around for millions of years, I could say, right? And my in-laws in Texas actually have been doing it for 5, 6 years. So we used to do it all the time.
Wow.
And so I threw out my back. That's what happens when you get old. Caitlin, you throw out your back now. So I threw out my back last December, and I'll talk about the fact that I generally am a very positive person. I'm generally, exude positive energy. I believe in, and that, and how it affects yourself and others around you. And so when that happened, I was not in a good place because I was kind of forced to be to not do the things that I normally do for my mental health, like going to the gym or not being able to cook for my family or hang out with my kids or walk to get the darn mail from the mailbox. Like those normal things that you don't think about that are important. All of that was taken away, right? So I was in a really grumpy, dark place, and sitting here trying to like go to the chiropractor and ice my back and rest and do all that stuff was in my mind not happening fast enough. I was like, what the hell? And I remember going to my chiropractor, who's a longtime friend, and I walked in, and he was like taken back on how terrible I looked and felt, and he said, I've never seen you this sort of dark and depressed. And I was like, well, hell, Greg, like I'm in pain. I can't do anything. And he goes, I'm going to say this to you. And I know you know this, so I'm just going to say it because you just need to hear it again, because apparently you're not doing it. He goes, nothing physical is going to get better until your mental state gets better. And I was like, oh, damn, you're right. You're
Mm,
so right. He goes, it's just not. So, anyways, he kind of pushed me into knowing that I needed to change my outlook before my physical was going to get any better. And so I did. And then I had to get on a plane to go to Houston, which is where we were going for Christmas. And that was just a daunting thing to even think about, being in so much pain and not being able to move. But I knew that I was going to be able to ice bath, while I was in Houston, because that's what they do all the time. And so I got back into ice bathing, and I told my husband, I want to start doing this at home all the time. Like I feel like it's so good for you. Besides my back, it's so good for you mentally, physically, and all that. So we started doing it here all the time, and it's completely changed. I think so many things about my body and about my mind. And we've gotten lots of other friends of ours into it, and I love it. I'm obsessed. It's like, the dopamine you get from it. It's like a drug. Like I hardly drink as much anymore. Like that's the crazy thing, you
that's
know?
amazing.
Hmm.
Maybe I should try getting into one of those icy torture chambers too.
I'm
Um,
telling you, it's
how
kind of
many
cool.
minutes do you go in that?
So they say the benefits are around 3 minutes if you can do it, but a lot of people, it's hard. I'm going to tell you, Caitlin, it's not easy. It's like birthing a darn child. But I will say this. I went through 30 hours birthing my first child without drugs. And if I can do 30 hours of that, I can do 3 minutes in an ice bath, right? That's kind of how I looked at it.
Is it
And
still
so
hard for you, or is it easy now that you're
no,
okay?
it's still hard. It's
Okay.
still hard. The easy part of it now is knowing that I can do it,
Mm,
right? So mentally, it's easier because I can do it, but it's because I've done it so many times. But I still have to mentally put myself in a good place before I get into that darn plunge. and, suffer for 3 minutes. But it's 3 minutes. And then again, I'm going to tell you how you feel after. I feel like I can climb Mount Everest after. That's how awesome it is.
Flip a car.
Yes, flip a
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
Parents for the next 3 hours.
I my husband does, like, some cold showers, and I've, like, tried a couple
Yeah,
times. I'm
I'll
just
tell you this, the cold shower, I think, is harder because it's
Oh,
moving
really?
water. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
moving water, and the plunge, if you can buy a plunge like that, those fancy ones, which I was fortunate enough to be able to be gifted one, it's awesome, but it also is harder than just a good old stock tank with a little bit of water and a lot of ice. Um, to me, that's slightly easier because you get in and you don't move,
Yeah, you're
and you
just
kind of
fully
you kind of
submerged.
you fully submerge, and you kind of create like a thermal layer almost a little bit when that
Mm.
happens. Moving water, you don't ever get that option to do that. It's just constant shitty cold.
Yeah, like, it's back to the warm, back to the cold, cold, warm.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so far I've hated it.
Yeah, I don't like the shower, so yeah, I don't, but that's me. Everybody's different, so.
I do have a friend who lives pretty close by who has, like, a bucket type thing, a
Mhm.
dunk
Yeah.
bucket, so maybe I'll try
I would
his thing
recommend
now.
that. I would
Yeah,
recommend trying that first and go for just like try 30 seconds first, then try a
yeah.
minute and just keep upping yourself a little bit.
Well, I'm very competitive, so I'll
And you're
probably
going to be
be
fine because then you're like me and it's all about the competition within your internal self, right? Yeah.
and within your family.
Yeah.
Um, speaking of a little bit more about your family, what's it like for your kids to go out and have you be recognized everywhere you go, or is it not that big of a deal in your community
It's
now,
not a big
or
deal here. It's not a
Yeah.
huge deal. I think people in LA, and even when I was living in New York, it's a little more normal, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there's the every now and then, um, their friends will recognize me from a past TV show or something, but it's not all the time. So it's not a huge thing. And my daughter knows me more as an actress, and then my son knows me more as what he used to call me, a cooker. My mommy's a cooker because I was, doing a lot of food shows and doing, my first cookbook and all that when he was little. So he knows I'm an actor too, but he all the shows that I've been on, he doesn't watch, so he doesn't relate to those just as much as my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah, so speaking of this sort of, like, shift-ish in your career in a way, like, being in Hollywood is never seemingly very conducive to, eating a lot of food. Um,
Mhm.
seems sort of like
Too bad because I love it.
it's not really, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
shined on.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about, like, your journey of saying probably just like, "Fuck that, I'm gonna enjoy my life eating good food."
Yeah, I mean, look, I've loved food. I've loved cooking since I was little. I was young, watching all the women in my family constantly in the kitchen, having fun and conversing and laughing and listening to music. And it just looked fun to me. So that was my initial sort of interest and intro into wanting to cook, was at a very young age. And then it was opened up more as I was traveling because of work, and that I was exposed to different cuisines and going to Europe and, being able to try things that I never probably would have been able to try. And as I got older. And so food was always a passion. I mean, it to me, food evokes, emotion almost like, music does for people. I mean, music does that for me as well. And so I don't see it as anything different. I love food. I love food.
Yeah,
That's all I
what's
can
not
say.
to
I love
love?
it. I love it. I mean, it feeds our bodies in good ways, and it evokes great emotions half the time.
Yeah, yeah. So this is your 2nd cookbook that you've just written your 2nd
Yeah.
cookbook, which is
Yeah.
called Here We Go Again.
Mhm.
Like, how much work goes into writing a cookbook? Like, how long does this take you? How many recipes? Like, do you do a lot of
Years.
testing?
Books are
Yeah.
books are hard, especially 4 colorway books are hard. My husband's in the book industry as well. We're both crazy,
Oh,
because it's hard, it's long, it's expensive, and you don't make any money. So why do we do it? um, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's another creative outlet. It's kind of cool to have something physical different than like a TV show or, a movie or something like that that kind of lives somewhere else or in whatever you want to call it in the cloud. But a physical book is kind of interesting because it's like it's touchable, right? And it's neat. And I also look at it as kind of a collection of or a timepiece with my kids, which I love because I do put my kids in them and my family and this particular one, the idea kind of came about during COVID, at the very beginning of COVID. And I'll just briefly tell you sort of the idea behind of how it started was that, none of us were going to the grocery store. We were all scared, just we were so
Yeah.
scared to go and touch anything and be around people. And so my husband was like, I'll go. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting because he's never gone to the grocery store ever. But he would go and do it. And so I was really sort of diligent about trying to figure out how much I could get the food to stretch that he got so we wouldn't have to go back, And so, and it got me thinking like, my mom used to do this. My mom used to stretch food, not because of COVID, of course, but because we didn't have the money.
You
So
use
she
what
was
you have.
always, yeah. So she was always stretching things that she was making on Monday, like the chicken, into enchiladas on Tuesday or, whatever. And so I was like, this is how we should be really approaching, meal prepping and cooking for our families like this. And I was always really trying to teach my kids as well about food waste. It's one of the biggest contributors to global warming. And I was like, this is an idea for a book that I have not seen yet. This is a cookbook that I've never seen before, where we're really focusing on the things that people already have generally in their fridge and their pantry. And so that's kind of how the idea started, was because of that.
Yeah, I saw your Cheez-It chicken sandwich the other day, and that looked like the bomb.
It is the bomb. I mean, one, who doesn't love Cheez-Its and who doesn't love a fried chicken sandwich?
I
And then you put the
know,
Cheez-Its in it. It's so good. But you can do that with any chips. That's the thing. Like any sort of good cracker.
right?
My kids used to throw away all the broken crackers at the bottom of the box. And I'm like, that's such a waste. I can do something with that. So
Yeah.
there you
Oh,
go. Of
yeah, the crumbs. You could even mix a few types together if you wanted to
course you can.
absolutely go buck wild with it like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
You know
Yep.
what
Yep.
really tickled me, what made me almost pee my pants again is when you put pickles on the sandwich. I loved that.
I love
I was like,
pickles. I
"Oh,
mean,
that
pickles are
is
the
oh
best.
my god, talk dirty
Yeah.
to me."
I know.
I
Did you
ended
see my video about what I like on pickles? The simple little thing, the pickles and the ranch and the potato chip. Have you ever tried that
Oh,
combo?
no.
If you're a pickle girl like me, you got to try it. It's one of
Do
my
you
favorite things.
do you like a sour pickle or do you like
I
a
like them
bread and butter?
all.
Yeah, I
I
love a
like them
bread and
all.
butter. I love a sweet pickle, I've
Yeah, I
gotta
like a sweet
say.
pickle, but I do love a good sour vinegar type pickle, like a good dill pickle.
It's
Yeah.
gotta be a good crunchy one.
Yeah. Agree.
The
Agree.
crunch is
Mm-hmm.
really crucial
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
equation.
I agree.
How many recipes are in this cookbook of yours, by the way?
85.
Mm. So they're all
Hefty.
that's a lot.
Yeah, my first one was even more. But yeah, no, it's I break down the book into chapters that I felt was easy to navigate because I wanted it to look like, everything cheese oriented. We have so much leftover cheese half the time, right? And then
Yeah.
there's everything sort of produce bin, any fruit and vegetable, like, the carrots that are starting to go soft. I can show you what you can do with those, like stuff like that. And then there's dairy, and I even have a section for holidays, for every kind of popular holiday. There's great things you can do with the leftovers. So
That's awesome. I love
yeah,
that. What was the
thanks.
premise of the first cookbook?
The first cookbook is called Pull Up a Chair, and it was really just family inspired recipes, whether they were from, my family that I kind of modernized a little bit, or stuff that I've been making for my family and friends for years. Some of them were on the cooking show that I did for, Food Network and cooking channel called Dinner at Tiffany's for a while. And then some were just the ones that we've been, rotating for years and years and years.
How did you like doing like a cooking show versus scripted type show?
So fun.
Yeah.
Loved it. Like, loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it because it was like, I got to be me,
Yeah.
right? I wasn't having to play a character. I wasn't having to memorize lines. I was getting to be in a kitchen and hanging with my friends on the show and cooking and drinking and like I got to drink on the job. Like it was
Wow.
awesome.
Amazing.
Amazing.
How do I get one of these shows? Um, that's really cool. I'm sure that felt like a freeing experience just
It was. It
to
was super
yeah,
fun.
and to
Yeah.
already be comfortable in front of a camera and all that
Yeah.
jazz
True,
makes a
true, true.
difference, right? Um, I have to ask you the question that I ask everybody, which is,
Yeah.
what is your favorite snack?
Probably my favorite. I mean, I have so many favorite snacks. That's what's hard. But I mean, a good one that people are like, thought that I was kind of weird, which is why I had to put it on socials, is my pickles, ranch, and potato
Chips.
chips. Oh, they're so good.
I don't have any ranch dressing in my fridge right now,
And
I
you can
don't
make
think.
it. I'll send you the recipe to make homemade ranch because it's 10
Oh,
times better than the bought store bought.
I'm
But
sure.
another snack I love, I'm a nut snacker. I do love nuts. Um, that's always a good one that I pull from the pantry.
Just like a
Sometimes,
handful of nuts type thing.
yeah, like a handful of pistachios or something like that. I
I
always love
love
that. Me
pistachios.
too.
You know
Me
what I
too.
always feel is it's like one of the greatest luxuries? A a pre-shelled pistachio.
Those are the ones that are in my pantry.
Oh
Who
my
has time to
god.
shell those? Not me.
I feel like the fucking queen of Sheba when I eat a pre-shelled pistachio. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
just gonna pop
I
these
got
all
my
in my mouth.
little suction cup container of those and I just open it
Yeah,
up. Yeah, I know.
5
They're
at
so good.
once.
So
Who
good.
cares?
So good.
That's so great. Well, I it was so cool to chat with you today and get to know you a little bit. You're
Same.
such a
Same,
lovely,
same.
lovely lady,
Well,
and,
thanks, lady. And I love watching you. You really do bring some fun truth to the old parenting thing that we're all doing, you know? It's fun to
oh,
watch. Love it.
thank you. I appreciate that. As I mentioned, it's sometimes, like, surreal starting out these journeys of sharing and doing, like,
Mhm.
creative stuff and not
Mhm.
knowing where they're gonna go, and then seeing somebody that you recognize from the screen repost something or like something or comment on something, it feels like, "Whoa, this feels really validating," or whatever. So,
Well,
I
keep doing
appreciate
it. It's fun.
you.
It's super fun to
Thank
watch.
you.
So,
Thank you
yeah.
so much.
You're welcome.
Well, we will keep in touch, and I'll throw the link to your, cookbook in my show notes so people can buy it,
Okay,
and we'll
cool.
talk about it when
Awesome.
we
Thanks,
promote
babe.
this.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.